Today I'm at the Cinnamon Grand and I'm going to show you a wonderful, pleasant, fine dining experience right here at Cinnamon Grand. Do come with me. If you're looking for a fine dining experience right here at the Cinnamon Grand, you should be certainly making a visit to the London Grill so that you can enjoy a superb meal. This is also the right kind of ambience to have a very insightful business interview, and that is exactly why Talking Point will be bringing in a distinguished guest so that we can connect with a wonderful discussion.
Manipulating a nationwide automatic network is a business art. Connecting with us today is Rohana Dissanayake, Group Chairman and Managing Director of David Pieris Holdings Private Limited. Welcome to Talking Point.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Let's get about with the formalities because there's so much to inquire about your sector. Your organization has been a major stakeholder when it comes to the transportation sector. Could you kindly brief us with regard to your organization and your business profile?
Well, thank you very much, Sabrina. In fact, David Pieris Group of Companies initially started with David Pieris Motor Company way back in 1994, and we were with Richard Pieris Group up until 1994 and became independent in 1994. And since then, we have been holding the Bajaj franchise in Sri Lanka. And we have, in fact, revolutionized the entire industry, if you look at it like that, with regard to transportation. And we have had tough times at the beginning when we started this entire journey. I remember early 90s, latter part of 80s, when we tried to introduce a three-wheeler, it was a hectic task. Mr. David Pieris himself, who is the founder of David Pieris Group, had to drive these three-wheelers around Viharamad Devi Park and get people to, accept this vehicle. And it's a big story. Since then, we have been working with, initially with public banks like People's Bank and Bank of Ceylon, largely to introduce shows through easy payment schemes, and then subsequently, somewhere in mid-90s, I think finance companies opted to, offer financing for shows because they realized it's an investment. When you buy a show, people make an investment, and the returns were pretty good. So, in terms of ROI or any matter for that, for that purpose, if you look at show, it serves the purpose.
What makes an automotive industry unique when it comes to strategizing business to increase ROI?
Well, like I said earlier, it's all about what you offer to the end user, meaning the customer and the commuter. See, for anything to be successful, I think it should deliver the promise. Now, when it's come to shows in particular, right, it's the least cost mode of transport that is available for the poor person. In fact, if you go out of Colombo, you will see the transportation after 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock is a real challenge. In an emergency, if you want to take a patient to the hospital or to any other emergency situation, what comes to your mind is a show. Because in Sri Lanka, still the infrastructure is has not been developed to that level, and things are happening. But I must tell you, more often than not, show is the one that gives a solution to most of those situations. So, coming back to ROI, the question that you ask, see, if the product is performing to the satisfaction or the expectation of the end user, meaning in the case of a show, it is the owner and the commuter, people who are using the vehicle. Well, naturally it will be accepted well. And now for it to be accepted, there has to be certain criteria that it has to fulfill. The convenience and probably the service levels that one would expect, both for the vehicle as from the vehicle to the commuter. So I think so long as you fulfill these criteria, people will accept it, meaning the numbers will go on and on. Now today we are happy to say that we have marketed about 1.1 million vehicles, and the success story of tri-shows, Bajaj tri-shows, was largely we had that market understanding, and we set up this after sales service units called service and spare parts dealers, and at convenient location to the user more than to us, to the user. So eventually people did not have to travel long to get their service or even to buy spare parts. So moment you do that, it becomes the cost wise, the cost of ownership becomes very low. As a result, you can offer an affordable price to the commuter. So that way, this ROI is also another philosophy in my term, my language. So it works very well, I think, with the Bajaj tri-shows.
As an organization, your respective establishment has hallmarked yourselves for affordability and reliability and also economical terms. Elaborate on this approach of marketing.
Well, like I mentioned earlier, it's nothing magic here. It's just that you need to make the service, make the product available at the convenience of the customer. That's all what we have done. I mean, when you are present, what we did was, we set up outside Colombo about 40 of our own regional offices, and we set up about 2,000 of our own network, meaning the dealers. Now, those dealers, really, these regional officers, acted as the hub, and then hub and spoke model. The regional officers really took care of the dealers who are in that territory, and those dealers took care of the customers. And that way, customer requirements were met, and as a result, people started this convenient mode of transport concept that I told you earlier. That was promoted, and there is nothing magic in that. So that was a simple thing that we did.
Turning a new page on passenger transport is a business concept that requires forecasting. How could this be implemented?
Well, it's all about the market understanding. Now, for you to understand the market, you've got to be, there in the market. So what we have done is, like I mentioned earlier, we have set up our network and our regional officers to be with the customer where they are. And the moment you are there, you need to understand the pulse. You will understand the pulse of the customer and the commuter in particular, because the commuter and our three-wheeler owner cannot be separated. So we need to have a good understanding. Through this presence, all what we have done is, we have reached them on the location, at the territory where they are living, more than us speculating things. So that was the concept that we really practiced. Quite apart from that, we also have carried out researches. We also have what is called questionnaires. When a tri-show comes to service or to buy a vehicle, a person comes, we always have this questionnaire to understand the purpose of his buying this vehicle, then also the mileage that he travels, then his area of living, the profession that is all those etc. I think all those are done. But I think today, quite apart from that, you also have the social media to get certain information. So we, coupled with all these things, right, we work as one team, and that knowledge is, I think, shared among everyone, all the stakeholders, to make this journey a success.
Right. Manipulating a nationwide dealer networking in automotive requires a proper integrated technology and methodology, of course. Explain to us the best practices that requires implementation for a smooth process.
Okay. Allow me to explain first how this entire journey started. When we really wanted to appoint service dealers in particular, right? Not too many were willing to come. but we had to, through our regional offices, we had to reach these people, and we set up a training center in Colombo, and we used to bring them, whoever the people who really liked working with us, we had to bring them to Colombo and then train them. We had the facilities in Colombo to, give them accommodation, etc. And then we kept them almost for 3-4 months before they were kind of fully trained and released. And we gave them a certificate, and then eventually supported them with financing also. So really, this method that we adopted really helped the dealers to work with us closely. Not only that, at a time most refused to join, I think, this network. We had what is called mobile units, and we had to operate some lorries island-wide, carrying spare parts, carrying our technicians, our spare parts specialists, and then we used to do what is called on-the-spot campaigns, and those were called service campaigns. And so through this, customers started accepting the product, and with that there was naturally a demand for service. So with the approach that we took of taking them for training to Colombo, and then giving them these facilities, and then also supporting financially, I mean, that really helped us. Now that's about the service dealerships. Then there is another component who has to provide the spare parts. Now, those spare parts dealers also had to eventually, they didn't have that kind of money to give us and then pay us and then buy spare parts. So then we had to offer, use what is called the consignment basis, where we had to offer them spare parts eventually, and they started, making money little by little. Mm-hmm. And with a bank guarantee, we got the coverage also, and we, continued appointing dealerships. And today we are happy to say we have over 600 spare parts dealers and over 600 service dealers, and almost another about 200 sales dealers. It has become a real, strong network. I don't think very many automotive companies would have that kind of facility.
Certainly, your organization is engaged with many activities in abundance related to the upliftment of the social and the living standards of the three-wheeler drivers.
Yes, it's a good question. I think we are doing very many activities very silently. Well, if you look at three-wheeler users, the drivers and their families, I think we have been working very closely with them. Now, let me just elaborate about three-wheeler drivers and their families. At times, we train them on technical requirements, and we appoint them as service dealers. At times, we bring them down to Colombo to our training center, and we train them. And for spare parts, I think we have training programs with regard to uplifting of their knowledge. Now, talking about their families and uplifting of their living standards, there are very, very programs. The one such latest thing that we did was in Jaffna, where we had about women development program, where we had about 7 such training programs. The latest one focused on about 20 ladies. I think we got them down to Colombo. We gave them the training. We trained them in our workshop in Jaffna. We also gave them training on the field, on the job, and then appointed them as our authorized representatives. Now today we are happy to say that they can on their own repair a three-wheeler. Sometimes they train even male community with regard to technical affairs of the tri-show. So, this program will go on and on. I think quite apart from that, very many other programs the company has done, going into rural areas and doing launching of various programs. But today we are happy to say some of the initiative that we have done for tri-show drivers' children, and some of the children I think have become doctors, lawyers and professors, and they are holding various positions. So that was not possible if the company has not supported them in that way. So it is a longer term thinking that the company had, and coupled with the approach that our entire management team took with the leadership of Mr. David Pieris, who is the founder of our company.
We can also slightly probably touch base on the motorcycle sector as well, isn't it? How promising has that segment been?
Yeah, That's, I think, is also a very good question. Motorcycles, if you look at, way back in early 90s, it was a Japanese motorcycle dominated market. If I say so, it's right. In Sri Lanka, Japanese motorcycles were quite popular. But when we introduced Bajaj motorcycles way back in 90s, it was the Bajaj scooter that came initially. Then we had what is called a KB100 model, and these Bajaj vehicles are known very good for fuel efficiency. So that was the unique selling proposition that was unique to these Bajaj vehicles. Now, so if Japanese vehicles were doing about 30 kilometers a liter, this used to do about 60-70 kilometers or even 80 kilometers. So that was really a turning point as far as the user is concerned, where it gave the economy. And overall, if you look at motorcycles or three-wheelers, the Bajaj is known for value for money. Value for money. I mean, if you are not happy with the money that you spend, it won't become successful. So motorcycles also, I think at the time we had about almost 70-80% market share. Now three-wheelers, even today, we have over 90% market share. So what does it speak for you to hold, over 4 decades, right? For you to hold that kind of market share, naturally the service and the overall offering of the solution has to be good.
Certainly, your organization, when it comes to transportation, always talks about innovation and creativity. I'm sure you can share more in detail when it comes to the new project that your organization has set foot on.
Thank you. I think this project that you are talking of is a taxi service that we have introduced. We call it electric taxi service, electric three-wheeler taxi service. Now in this, what we really want to do is to carry out a pilot project before we get into commercial operations. What we have done is we have selected about 20 three-wheelers, and we are running that operation with some drivers whom we have trained, and we are very concerned about the discipline of the drivers. We are very concerned about the knowledge of the drivers with regard to their own behavior as well as the driving techniques. So we have done a thorough training, and then also we have these 20 vehicles that we have selected, we have tested on our own almost for 60,000 kilometers before it was introduced to the commuters. And we also are working on an app to ensure that movements are kind of monitored. And then also, it is run at a very economically, priced basis. We charge only about 65 rupees per kilometer. That is to, give the commuter the best advantage from an electric three-wheeler. So our intention is to kind of use the technology for the future. Now technology is something that eventually gives the productivity or the efficiency. Through those efficiencies, who benefits? It's the end user, it's the customer. And if they benefit, naturally this will become another successful project. So our plan is to work with eventually Bajaj Auto Limited and to work on solutions for the future.
Certainly, the transportation sector requires new innovative moves with new projects, which is being focused with reliability, affordability, as well as looking at the economical factors. A very well detailed discussion, of course, with Mr. Rohana Dissanayake, Group Chairman and Managing Director of David Pieris Holdings Private Limited. Thank you so much for connecting with Talking Point.
Thank you very much, Sabrina, for inviting me.
Inspired moments with Cinnamon Hotels and Resorts.